Okay, the last thing we've got to look at is labour market flexibility or inflexibility. So inflexibility or flexibility, you can see this in two main ways. So one is wage flexibility. And this is saying, can wages, particularly fall? Are there things that stop labour markets from adjusting? So inflexibility in this context, usually takes the form of sticky wages. So let's suppose that an economy heads into recession. Why might wages be sticky? What might keep wages high and stop workers from then being able to, stop unemployed workers from being able to find jobs? So one of the problems in recession is if wages don't fall, then workers price themselves out of jobs. So what sort of things could do that? Well, we know one thing already that can do that, which is, the national minimum wage. That can cause wages to be inflexible. But also trade unions. So their job, trade unions, these are organisations usually at a national level that represent the interests of their members, and what they perceive as the interests of their members are normally trying to make sure that wages stay high. And trade unions can stop wages from falling by simply taking industrial action, saying to employers, well, if you try and cut wages, we'll go on strike. By which I mean not make themselves available to work. Or linked to that, there are things like, obviously legislation. So laws, legislation is laws passed by the government. So Dover Brooks can't just cut my wages because I have a contract. I have a contract with Dover Brooks that tells me how much they're going to pay me for the year. So they can't simply say, well, we're going to pay you less, because that's against the law. So all of these things are making markets less perfect. They're making them less flexible. It's less easy for them to adjust, than they might otherwise do. Another thing that might stop wages from falling is something like the benefit system. So if I'm unemployed, the government will pay me benefits. It'll pay me money towards my living standards. Well, obviously, I'm never going to work for less than that because that would be completely stupid. So again, it works a bit like a minimum wage. Nobody will work for less than the level of things like unemployment benefit that they receive. So all of those things can reduce wage flexibility. But another way in which we might see flexibility, is what we sometimes call occupational and geographical mobility. So this is flexibility between jobs. Now we'll look at this in more detail when we look at unemployment more generally. But in theory, if the markets, what should happen, is that workers should move towards high-paid jobs. In general, that's what you'd expect them to do. So we'd expect, therefore, skill shortages should gradually decrease over time. And whether that's in certain specialist jobs or whether it's in areas of the country, then if markets are flexible, what will happen is if there are shortages of surgeons, people will train to become surgeons. If there are shortages of IT consultants in London, people will move to London to do those jobs. Now, as I say, we're going to do these things in much more detail later. But there are things that will create both occupational inflexibility and also geographical inflexibility. So occupational we talked about before, that's things like qualifications that you need. We also said that trades unions can have an effect here on restricting supply. Qualifications, obviously, that links to legislation. The reason that you need a qualification, to be a doctor, is that there is a law that says that you do. So the things that stop you from moving from one job to another Likewise, there are things that stop you from moving from one area to another. You might not want to. There might be family or cultural reasons. That you don't move from one part of the country to another. Or it could simply be the cost of living. It's much more expensive in the south of England than it is in the north. Or things like house prices. So all of those, so house prices in the south are probably at least twice as high as they are in the northeast of the UK. So all of these, again, they make labour markets less flexible. They're factors that stop labour markets from fully adjusting. So two types of flexibility. One is flexibility of wages, and two is flexibility of supply.